a lottery system which basically preys on the learned helplessness of millions of people in this country. Like, this is a very bizarre American phenomenon for the most part. I mean, actually, yeah, it's a very American. Like, what is the last one? I don't know, 600 billion or some shit, like some ridiculous number that I can't even conceive of.
They put
right?
those big lottery billboards up in like the worst neighborhoods in
right,
every city
exactly,
in America. Yeah,
exactly. So you have the money that comes out of that system, which basically exploits people's incredible vulnerability and the shitty economic circumstances that we're in, and exploits the vulnerability of people who have no options at all, right? But then the lottery becomes, yes, this could be your ticket out, and then of course you end up losing it all. And so, but then you have this other world where you have these things like Substack, or can we name a certain podcast that is extremely successful?
There are lots of them.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, of every kind.
But here's the thing. Right. But here's the thing. When you think about whatever name comes to mind, dear listener, X successful podcast or X successful media company, whatever the fuck Substack really is, I don't know. But none of the people who are making money from that are the same as the people who get lottery money.
Right.
Those are very different social classes. So the Substack guys, like I said, I only just sort of glanced at it, but I'm thinking about the successful podcasters, the Substackers, all the media companies, what is Meta, right? Meta / Facebook. These are not people who came out of nothing. Bill Gates didn't come out of nothing.
Right.
They came out of a particular set of economic and social circumstances,
of course,
where they all knew each other, where they went to school together, etc. So,
and you can follow the trail. I think I tweeted about that very bitterly. Follow the trail of any little podcast that's getting a big write-up in the New York Times,
right?
And you'll understand that those people didn't come from nowhere.
And they probably were friends with the reporter. There's also, you can sort of follow the money, and you can
there's a lot of
follow the degrees.
I was going to say follow the degrees and follow the sort of media institutions that they're working at.
Right.
It's like George Carlin. It's a big club. There is a club element to it for sure, and that's what's weird about Substack and podcasts being cast in the mainstream as these plucky individualists who are coming out of nowhere to challenge the status quo. And it's kind of like, but they're like all the sons and daughters of the same cunts that run the system.
That's just it. And right. So I think that's, again, what I find so incredibly interesting about Don Draper. Later on, Don Draper and Betty have these conversations about money. At one point, she tells him, you don't know how to be around money. Like, you don't know what to do with it, which is actually not true. Because guess who has a shit ton of money in his desk drawer? Guess who's able to just take out cash and give it to her for an emergency? Guess who has to depend on her father dying and leaving money for her in his will, right? So who knows what about money, and who knows how to be what around money is also, I think, the question about money and place, and who has the power to stand on a piece of land that is actually his, her, or her own is the question.
Yeah.
And that's the question that I think impels the show in many ways. And
definitely this episode. Yeah, no, that's really well said. I love that idea of like there's a big difference between like the lottery winner and the Substacker with the $100,000 a month Substack,
who have money managers that they can count on from their, whom their parents can recommend. Right. The lottery winners don't have that.
Right. I think that's what bothers me about the sort of air of democracy within that sort of media world. I mean, even with Joe Rogan, people act like Joe Rogan, some like normal guy that took over. He comes from NBC. He was like supported by, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't just like a guy in his garage, but people like to they like to have that. It's Pete Campbell is there. He has to have his own narrative of like making it on his own. It seems like that's what this episode is about. Is that none of it's worth much to him if he feels like it's just given to him. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, poor me. Like, I'll take it, dude. Give me one of those. I struggle. It's another issue I guess we can bring up and talk about in the future. Is really struggling with rich people between like hating them and being jealous of them. And like
I want to be rich. I've said this often,
Yeah.
and people have criticized me for it. But if you live in the US, rich is your best option.
Yeah, rich is life.
Yeah, rich is life. And
literally
I'm not
life.
even saying. And today you can't even be just rich. You have to be mega rich, really, if you want really. But if I want to just survive and be able to eat stinky cheese whenever I want it, I have to be rich.